Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how you take an image that is a very large image and how you make it smaller to use in a blog or a learning management system. Because an image like this at 100% is huge, and you can upload something like this to a learning management system, but it's going to just take forever to load. So there's essentially three ways that I tackle a problem like this. I'm using Adobe Fireworks CS6, but you can actually use almost any tool to accomplish the three things that I'm talking about. But the first thing I always ask myself is there a way that I can actually just crop the image? Is there basically white space that's not needed? So if I use the crop tool, come over here, and before I do it, you'll see it's at 3456, and I crop it, it essentially gets rid of about 500, right? And so essentially, the bigger the file, the larger the file size, the slower it's going to take to load. So I'm going to save this as cropped. So then the next thing I do is, if maybe I'm not happy with the cropped, or maybe I'm not sure I want to go that route, is I will try all three of these and then make a decision at the end once I look at the file size. So the next thing that I can do is I can just try to make the image smaller. So I can go up here to modify canvas and go to image size, and it's at 300, right, pixels. And if for some reason, I will always check the resolution. If the resolution is something like 300, I'll bring that down to something like 70 or even maybe 100. The old kind of idea was, for web, all you need is 70. For print-based stuff, you need 300 pixels per inch. So, the typical screen resolution, for a long time they said was 1024. I think it's a bit bigger, but you still have to consider mobile devices as well as learning management systems usually have different things on the side. So I'm just going to try 1,000, see what that looks like. And this can look scary, but keep in mind I'm not at 100%. This is 100%. I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to do small 1,000. So the next thing is, even 1,000 is pretty wide. So you can often get by with something like 600. And actually, depending on what you want to do, you might even try 300 or 150. Okay, so then the last thing I'm going to do is, after I experiment with maybe, what it would be at 1,000 for the width to, 600, maybe 300, 150, is I might actually play with the quality of the image. Now, keep in mind, in Fireworks, you have this option down here for an export wizard, and it'll prompt you through some things. So let's say I want to keep this at 300K, right? Do I want to use it for the web? I do. And so then it'll basically show me JPEG is at this size, right? And it's going to take 43 seconds at this speed to download, whereas basically a GIF is half that, right? So that alone has me interested. So I will sit here and change this to a GIF. So really, to be fair, I guess there's four things that I do. And actually, I'm going to redo that, and I'm going to make sure I change it to GIF. So the first thing I do is I see if I can crop it. The second thing I do is I see, can I just change the resolution? Can I make it smaller? The third thing I do is I experiment with formats. How does a ping versus JPEG versus a GIF work? Generally, if it has a face, if it's of a person, I'm going to avoid a GIF. But for certain things that geometric shapes or even something like this, often a GIF will work fine. So that's the third thing I do. Now the last thing I would do is I might experiment with, let's say I wanted to use a JPEG, and I just knew that. Well, under options here, I can change and experiment with the quality. So I'm going to change this down to, we'll see, we'll just do 70. Alright, so after I've done those four steps, then I go back and I try to take a look at what I did. So I can actually open them. And I can go through and see, can I actually other than the original, what's the big difference visually? Alright, so that got a little smaller, that got a little smaller, but that was because I had created it from that. So right now I'm just looking for detail. And to be honest, I couldn't really tell a difference. So assuming size as in I don't need it 1,000 pixels wide, say the resolution isn't important, then I'm just looking at size. And so basically and this was a messed up thing. Basically the smaller JPEG and the GIF are really two of the best. And so then I would just really explore those two and see, does it really matter? And I can't visually tell a difference. So then I would likely go with the smaller image. And so that's basically the 4 steps that I go through when I try to make an image smaller to load for a personal blog or something like a learning management system. Thanks.